Papa is directly involved in that, and he's got some words of wisdom to pass on to you regarding that.
Thank you, Doctor. Let me just start off by, you'd never meet a stranger, and if you're in that way in life, you get to enjoy every moment. I recall a story up in Boston. The fellow at the bar said, where are you from? To the other fellow at the end, he said, I'm from Boston. He said, that's where I'm from. That's Avatari. He said, what school did you go to? He said, I went to Boston Latin. He said, that's where I went. Let's have a double. He said, what year did you graduate? He says, 75. He says, let's have another. And they're proceeding to get a little mellow on one. He yells down the other. He said, where'd you go to college? He said, I went to BC. He said, that's where I went. Let's have another one. He said, what's your dad do? He says, he's a fireman. He said, my dad's a fireman. And they were really tipsy. And about that time, someone walked in the door and he said to the bartender, he said, hey, Jack, anything going on at the pub today? He says, no, just the O'Leary twins are drunk again. Folks, I guess I'd best tell you a little bit about myself. I've been around, this is my 50th year in soccer, so that puts me about 49 and a half. But that being untrue, and I've never ruined a good story for the lack of fact, I would tell you that I'm into my 50th year and I started playing ball when I was 8. So I am a captain with Delta Airlines flying international flights, previously with Pan American, and when Pan Am had a little misfortune, Delta saw the wisdom of picking me up and added me to their staff, and for that I'm very grateful. This brings me into my hobby of soccer because I get to go to every country in the world, and I have many friends throughout in my position in soccer. So I maintain my abilities to get free tickets to games and so forth. And as you all know, this year, 94, is World Cup USA, and I'll cover that, and the NAIA tournament here in Mobile. Thanksgiving week, I'll cover that a little bit later. I went to born and raised in Rhode Island, went to the Naval Academy, graduated, went on to fly in Vietnam, and married a young lady from Baldwin County, and this is our 34 years this year, it's 34th year, and she's a remarkable woman to tolerate, airline pilot, soccer person, and just a plain old man around the house for so long. One of the fringe benefits of my job is that when I look by the door and see my bag, it means I've been encroaching on her territory a little too long, and I look at the size of the bag to determine how long I'm supposed to be away. We have five children. If you ask my wife, she has only 4 and an only child, 4 having graduated from college. And then when women drink white wine, there's just some relationship between that and pregnancy. And we have a fellow that's 11 years old and just about keeping us very young. And the boys that have gone on to play soccer, one was on the U.S. rugby team, one was on the U.S. An alternate to the U.S. soccer team. Girl was in the Olympic trials in '88 in swimming, so kind of a sports-oriented family, and to be guest here at the Sports Academy today highlights this old man's career. I just got elected in the Hall of Fame of soccer, so I guess what I'm trying to say is an airline pilot and a sports person, we have big egos, and if you don't have a big ego, you're not going to be the best. It's just part of the game. So I encourage talking about myself because very few other people do. And I would like to continue and say that because of my BS, I was elected into government, and I stayed there for 8 years as an elected official, as a city council person. Rounded out some of that ego to the point where folks call and ask you that their garbage isn't picked up on time, their streets aren't done, and so forth. So I said, it's best I get back into soccer. It's something I'm really keen about. And so I left the good US of A and spent 12 years in Berlin, Germany, where my family and I got to enjoy learning other languages. We'll get into soccer because this is the year of soccer in the US. Myself, I played from 44 1944 to 1963, from boys club to playing with players on the only U.S. team to win the World Amateur Championship in 1948, the team from Ponta Delgada out of Fall River, predominantly Italian, Portuguese. But it is the only U.S. team that's really gone on to win worldwide fame. Played with the U.S. team back in the 50s, had the opportunity to play against a dear friend, Pele, who we occasionally talk now and then. Great man, Pele. Not many folks know the ability of that man. I was with him, introduced him to my son, and about 6 months later, there was a game between Miami Toros and the New York Cosmos at Yankee Stadium, and came over to the bench, and having not seen the young man for 4 months, he said, "How you doing, Mike?" He was more interested in talking to Mike than he was to anyone else. He just has the gift of remembering names. And I've also seen him on many occasions during that game playing professional ball. He would be hours on end when everybody else was just relaxing. He would be hitting a soccer ball, trying to hit a square about half the size of that picture. And when asked why he was doing that, he said he's noticed his ball has just one too many rotations for the distance he's taking it. And he was a perfectionist. And it proved to be, as you know, one of the greatest players of all time. There's debate whether others are as great or better than he, and that will continue on. The coaching, I've coached soccer a long time, youth division, high school division, assisted at the college level, and I did one treat that you would like very much. As a coach, I was in Europe with Berlin, and there was an international tournament, and the Danish team had an illness and they couldn't make the game, so they called the high school there, asked if I could take in a team that was under 16 and compete with the under 16s from the other schools. There was 12 other teams playing in that tournament. And all I had was 9 male and 2 female. It was a to-do to bring the 2 females onto the field against the so-called European best males. We went into the tournament and I closed it in tight at the back end. We proceeded to come in 4th in the tournament, never losing a game, but just staying there by time, just playing the Italian defense procedures. And the girls did great and made me proud. And there was no more to do about whether the girls could stay with the boys up to that level. And of course, as you know, our U.S. women's team went on to be the first winner of the World Championship World Cup in soccer, and they've got some outstanding personalities. So coaching, I've done well, but it's kind of hard to fly airplanes and be available with the players, and you'd have to have 2 real outstanding assistant coaches to make that work. So in addition to this, I started refereeing because as the players developed in this country, the talents are enormous, and we have some great players. One of the local boys here from St. Paul's is now finishing up his senior year at Indiana University and was starting for him, which is a treat for me in the sense that there was no soccer in Alabama in 1977 when we started it. Fought the dickens for 14 years to get an accepted sport in 1991. But from that point on, we established what we called at that time the South Alabama High School League, done by a man from Bayside Academy, Ralph Barati, and myself. We put it together so if the state did adopt it, it would fall right in line with football, baseball, basketball. And to this day, the state will tell you that it was well organized, that it worked out quite well. We have over 3,300 children in the Mobile, Baldwin County area playing soccer now. The coaching has come a long way. There is a much needed effort to be made to improve coaching in the high school ranks. We have a few that are really outstanding, but we have many that are just laypersons that haven't had the opportunity to go to the coaches presented by Coach Patton and Coach Gray out at Mobile University in USA. And if one forget the coaches come along, and we'll do well, and those players will be developed well. The area we have a lot of concern about is the officiating. It's hard to get a person to go out and take the verbal abuse, and you need to get the young player who's just finished up his college career knows the sport and is going to go out there and ensure that the players play by the rules established. The difficult moments we have now are, we have the Catholic Youth Organization, which produces many, many young players, and there's a great opportunity to keep a kid active in sports at that level, along with the YMCA program. Then we have the high school program, then the college program, and hopefully in 1995, Alan Rothenberg, who is the CEO of USSF and the CEO of World Cup, will have together the first Major League Soccer professional league, and that will come in 95. I've been up to Chicago recently, and it looks like it's in place. But the area of officiating, you try to get them interested at the youth level, and the hardest thing when you take a young person in high school and you start teaching them to be an official, he is just like Little League, inundated with the nice, warm receptions of parents, and they proceed to have, I don't need this, for $5 on a Saturday morning refereeing 4 games. I do not need this. So I ask, as you go through the sports fields, you encourage parents to back off or get involved, and it will help. We get to the high school level, the players are developing fast, the coaches are developing fast, but the referee, he's still there. And as many years of experience as I have, I'm not able to get 100 referees in this immediate area to be of the quality necessary to make the game progress further. We have 4 or 5 outstanding referees in Mobile. In fact, 2 have been selected to do the Birmingham Senior Classic, which is similar to the North-South Senior Bowl we have in Mobile football. This was done last week in Birmingham, and the 2 referees for the women's division and for the men's division were both referees from Mobile, where they were selected at large from the country. So Diego Tobin, who did the women's game, and Paul Millett, who did the men's game, did such a great job. They've been asked to do the national championships here in Mobile, and along with 5 other the best referees in the country. And being president of the referees in the United States, I can honestly say I begged off the selection because I knew they were available, and I didn't think it would be in their best interest for me to get in there and prejudice it in any way. So I'm talking in real generalities. I'm going to open the floor up a little bit later, so be prepared to ask any questions. You know, after 50 years, I do have a wealth of knowledge in the sport, and I can assist in any way I can. But just going into generalities, that covered the referees and the need to get more, the need to improve on them. I've mentioned the coaching and the playing. Administratively, I'm an assessor, national assessor, a national clinician, and president, as I mentioned, of the referees. In the capacity of assessor, I go around the country and I assess referees at the professional level down to the youth level to try to improve them so that they become better, so we'll have the quality that we're interested in down the road. And also the clinicians, we go around the country. There's about 11 or 12 of us in the National Academy, as we call it, that provide a 1-week course in Elizabethtown College in Pennsylvania. We provide a course for referees interested in coming up and spending 5 days and becoming better officials. So those are the areas that I have the opportunity to work in. I also handle the assignments of the officials. Up until this year, I was president of the local referee chapter, but it's been turned over to Bob Brooks. And so I could give more concentration on World Cup. I deal with World Cup as in protocol and wherever I'm directed, because of my ability to get around the country at minimal cost, it works out in both my interest and the Federation's interest. The World Cup coming now, we're going to see the best teams in the world. Of course, we'll be minus France and England. They just had some struggles and just didn't make the playoffs and were into the final round. But we'll see a strong Dutch team who I think has a very strong chance of winning. They just picked up their key player, Gullit, which is he's just an outstanding outstanding. They've got a great goalkeeper in Sergio, he is just outstanding. I think you'll see a strong Italian team if they're willing to go forward on the offense. Italians have always played a defensive game, but now because of the way the point structure will be in the World Cup, it's going to behoove those teams that used to play just to get past the first and second level into the final rounds. They're going to have to play more offensively, and this may just show the talent that the Italians do have. The U.S. team, very young, a lot of problems because the European late release of some of the players. But we have 3 outstanding goalkeepers, and it becomes political as to which one should be starting. Tony Viola from Virginia/New Jersey has had the starting role all the games, but there are some two players right behind him that just isn't there as equal. The young fellow Claudio Reyna from Virginia has given an outstanding show of himself in the last 2 games, and he's made the team, and whether or not he'll start, it depends on how well Tab Ramos and the other ball players will be conditioning-wise and so forth. So we will, in this old man's opinion, the U.S. team will get by the first round. Playing in the division with Colombia and Switzerland and Romania, we should get by the first round and into the second round. And like any sport, with a little luck, we could make it to the quarterfinals. And I personally think we'll make it to the quarterfinals. And from that point on, we'll see how the skills of those players will develop us along the way. I'd like to go into some of the areas of the NAIA. The national championships will be held here in Mobile, thanks to a strong lobby at the coaches convention in January. Coach Gray and Coach Uwe Tittle, who's the women's coach at Mobile University, and we convinced the NAIA that Mobile could do a good job. We've got the quality people to do it, and it would be good for our city to reinforce the fast-growing sport that it is in this area. So they have voted out of Tulsa to bring it here, and we have it for 94 and 95, and if we do well enough, I feel confident to say we might have a permanent home for it, which would be a real treat because there's not much happening during that Thanksgiving week, and it's before Senior Bowl in football, and it's perfectly timed for this community. The events will bring 12 teams to Mobile. They'll arrive on Saturday before Thanksgiving. They will have a big banquet on Sunday, which is quite a nice gathering. If you can get tickets to it, because it will be limited, you will really enjoy. They'll have a draw like World Cup as to who will be playing who and so forth. The first games will be on Monday. First round games will be on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. There'll be 4 games a day. They will be at Fairhope Field, the football field at Fairhope. It's probably the best in the southeast, that field, because of the great care that the Baldwin County folks give to it. And they'll take Thanksgiving Day off, and the final 4 teams will play 2 games at University of Mobile on Friday, and then the finals will be, I believe, 1 o'clock on Saturday. So we're putting this all together now, and we will see some of the finest soccer in the country. Division I, as you know, is up in Davidson. I think they'll be moving to Richmond this year, but I'm not positive of the exact movement date. But they have been in Davidson College in North Carolina for the last 3 or 4 years. But this year we'll host it, and what I've asked and what I will be trying to coordinate will be the academy here to allow the sports medicine people, the management people, and the coaching people, students, like to attach one of each to each of the 12 teams, and that will enhance your studies and your soccer's been great to me. It has given me the opportunity to check the bag by the door and to see how big it was, not only flying, but soccer. And as a result, 34 years of married life has been a bliss. There's always a honeymoon coming around when you've been away for about 2 weeks of soccer. After 2 weeks out on the road with soccer, it's always nice to come home and get a home-cooked meal. And remembering all those things, it's always a treat for me to have some of the key folks at soccer in South Alabama and Mobile University in Spring Hill stop by and have a nice meal at the house, because I know what a treat that was for me. Coach Patton, who I believe is here getting his doctorate degree, and I go back many, many years. In fact, when Roy came to this city of Mobile, I met him at the airport, and he was my house guest for about 3.5 months. So he never came back for more food because he went on a weight loss program after he left. That's what he said. But between you and I don't think I've ever seen him eat too much anyway. And besides, he talks funny anyway with that Irish brogue. He's probably one of the finest soccer coaches that is in Division I. He's just had some bad luck in scheduling, because when you're good, the good teams don't want to play you. And when you're bad, everybody wants to play you. Well, he hasn't any trouble getting games, but to play the schedule necessary to get him into the national tournament has been very difficult. And going across town over to Mobile University, you got Coach Bob Gray. Again, when Coach Gray came down and picked him up at the airport, and he only stood a short period of time, about a month and a half. So we see two different coaching styles, two outstanding young men, two family-oriented coaches. And as you know, Coach Gray received the Outstanding Coach of the Year 2 years ago and was up again this year for that same award. So he has some abilities when you consider how many coaches he was going up against for that award. Then we have Coach Ron Brill over at Spring Hill College, and I'll be very critical in the sense that Ron is doing a great job for the amount of resources he's given. And I only say this so if anyone talks to the president of Spring Hill College or any of the faculty or board of directors, tell them that if you want a great program, you're going to have to at least give them one full scholarship to make it work. So that encompasses my criticism of soccer right there. But outside of that, we have some great matches. The state high school championships will be in Mobile in Division 6. They will be held at Fairhope, and it will be 13th, that's Friday, there'll be 2 games, and on the 14th will be the finals for both men and women finals will be on Saturday the 14th. So I've covered high school, college, and the World Cup. As I mentioned, the Pro League will be starting in '95. I'd like to, I can go on and tell funny stories. If, as an airline pilot flying across the ocean, I was just mentioning to Dr. Caro that flying nonstop from New York to Dhahran in Saudi Arabia takes about 11 hours. And you can't rig up my Game Boy into the computers on the airplane, so we end up telling stories. You always wonder what those pilots do up there. They tell stories and try to get a new fact, new joke or something and reorient it. You've got the meanest woman in the world right now, as you probably heard, is Tanya Rodham Bobbitt. And we have, we come up with these type of stories, and it's real hard for me to tell clean stories. But the other day, I was coming from Nice, France to New York, and I had a bunch of Jewish folks, if I may, coming back from Passover. And as I had 2 other pilots working with me, I let them mind the store, and I went back to do some PR work. And as I went back through the cabin, the rabbi asked me, he said, "We don't have lox and bagels." I says, "Yeah, but how was your price, Rabbi?" And he said, "Oh, it was good." I says, "That's why we don't have lox and bagels." So I proceeded to tell him the story about the 2 bees who were out pollinating the flowers, and one they were Jewish bees because one had a yarmulke on, and the other one said, "Why are you wearing a yarmulke? You don't need it for pollinating flowers." He says, "Well, I don't want to be mistaken for a wasp." And the rabbi, he thought that was quite nice, and we got talking about some other difficult moments, and I couldn't begin to tell him all the American princess stories that I know, and because some of them, like, what does a Jewish American princess make for supper? Reservations. What's your favorite wine? Take me to Miami. But on and on and on. But it's like, how do you break up a bingo game in Iraq? You call out B-52, and then we get into the Italian stories. Being Italian, I always make it Italian because it might be offensive to if I told the Polish stories or the Irish stories. But the Italian that walks into the pizza parlor, he orders the pizza, and the man says, "You want me to cut it in 4 or 6 pieces?" The Italian says, "You better cut it in 4. I don't think I can eat 6." And so with those in mind, I tell the story about the fellow that was in the bar every day here in Mobile, and he orders 3 drinks. And he says, the bartender, "Make them your finest." So he puts the 3 drinks up, and he says, "You've been doing this for a month. Can I ask you what's happening?" He says, "Well, I have a brother in Yakima, Washington. I have a brother up in Skowhegan, Maine." He says, "And because Delta charges so much money for an airline ticket," he says, "we can't meet as often as we'd like, so we decided to have a drink and pretend the other 2 are there, and we drink them up right after work, and then we go home to our families, drinking to our health and our good families." And so this went on for another week or so after the bartender had commented that it was just a great way to do it. And after a week, he comes back and he says, "Just give me 2 today." He says, "Is something wrong with your brother?" He says, "No." He says, "I've given up drinking for Lent." I brought with me some soccer journals. I only got 5, so maybe you can have them reproduced. 5 copies of the schedules for World Cup, and I also have 5 copies of the tickets. As you probably read in this morning's paper, there are tickets available, but you better be prepared at dialing the number and keep redialing it because it's been busy. And so what I've done is I brought that here so you can call if you're interested. The game's pretty much sold out, but there are some available. And I do have, if you get the USA Today, I think you'll find that what are available, and the telephone number and everything is here. Feel free to take a copy of Soccer America and the other magazines I have here, and I leave those to the school. I'll open up for questions. Feel free to hit me anywhere, especially officiating. That's where I'm really best. My coaching, I had 110 victories, 17 losses, and 27 ties. So I don't know that much about soccer relative to coaching it, but it just, my feeling is if I keep a kid in sports, I'll keep him on the courts. So with that in mind, the floor is open to any questions. Make them difficult, make them hard. Yes?
Yeah, can you go into more detail about how you lobbied the NAIA for the tournament to fail, and what's the organization that's going to do?
The NAIA home office is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They make up the decision as to where the tournament's going to be. They like to move it around every 2 years and give each of the communities, but they want it in the southern part of the country where the weather is warm at Thanksgiving time. It's pretty chilly when you get up into Oneonta in New York, or if you get up into Bangor, Maine, or if you get up into Butte, Montana. So they kind of like to move it down south. So what Coach Gray and I and Coach Tittle went in to talk to the committee chair in Santa Clara, California, we presented a package saying that we could provide the program here with hopefully putting it in the black, but we were positive we can make it in the black because they did lose a few dollars last year. It was very minimal. But the budget for it, we presented how we would do it. And to be right up front with you, it was the budget for putting this on is $30,000. So this means you've got to get some support in the community. We had the support. The president of Mobile University, Dr. Magnoli, is just, he's just been so helpful and so sports-oriented. As you can see, his program, his baseball team now is making it on its way. The basketball team went to the national championships. Their soccer team went to the Final Four last year in the NAIA. So he's put a lot of love and dedication into his athletic department there, and under the leadership of Bill Elder, Dr. Bill Elder, they've done well. So with that in mind, we were able, because of that dedication, we were able to convince those people over Boca and Orlando and San Antonio
What are some of the goals and objectives that the World Cup organizers have? Is it to make as much money as possible? Is it to increase the popularity of the sport?
Great question. Great question. You know, the United States Soccer Federation is the overall hierarchy of soccer in the United States. And under that is umbrellas. The NAIA, which I'm president, National League of Soccer Officials, is part of that. The youth organization is part of that. Your different organizations all come under that. Well, Alan Rothenberg, he heads it up. His Secretary General is Hank Steinbrecher, outstanding athlete, who will probably be the guest speaker for the NAIA tournament here when we have it. But what they have done is gone out and marketed World Cup here in the country. It's been a real difficult battle because there are a lot of folks that believe that soccer is not going to ever make it here. So to convince the media, since there's no timeouts, a package had to be presented that would allow the game to go on with little boxes as to adverts. So Rothenberg sold it, and they're looking at a multi-million-dollar profit. But that wasn't what they were interested in. To get the World Cup to come to the United States, Seth Blatter, who is the Secretary General for FIFA, of which Jorge Havelange from Brazil is the president and running for re-election unopposed, they said, we'll put the World Cup in the United States. And I must preface this that Henry Kissinger, who really was the statesperson that went up and negotiated to bring it to the country, with the proviso that we would establish by 1994 a professional soccer league in the United States similar to baseball, NBA, NHL. We were unable to deliver at 94, but we convinced them we would have it in place in 95. It is in place, and the monies that we will obtain from World Cup sales and sponsorships will be diverted to the USSF and the professional league to get it underway. The new Pro League will be controlled by the USSF, which is interesting at this point, unless they change it, but I don't see that happening right away. So there will be bonuses given, and this is an area that I'm concerned because of all 50 years of soccer, I have really never received a stipend for all my efforts, and I just find it hard to believe that they will be giving $3 million bonus to folks that are involved with the leadership. But when you've seen what they've done and how they've gone about it, you can say, well, maybe there is justification, but $3 million to me is a lot of money. It's just like another issue of playing athletes, the amount of money we do pay, but that's another issue. The monies, I think, are going to come back to the sport. I think it'll be positive. We'll have more quality in what we're trying to do because we're able to be financially sound. Another interesting highlight as I talk in roundabout circles, soccer today is the #1 youth participation sport in the United States because of what we're doing. Any other? Yes, sir.
Your last comment begs the question. I can remember I'm going to guess it was the mid-70s, it was the Kyle Rote era, right after he won the Superstars competition. There was a big push on youth soccer at that time, and it seemed like they got a lot of kids into it. That kind of faded over like the next 5-year period. And yes, I understand that youth soccer has the highest role, but what happens when they get up to about the age of 13 or 14, and why is it happening that we don't see these kids coming into high school programs, probably because there aren't as many high school programs as there should be, but we seem to lose that development somewhere around age 13.
Again, another great question. As you know, Kyle Rote was instrumental because what they were doing at that time, great college player that he was, they had in place the NASL, the National North American Soccer League, and the ASL, the American Soccer League. And if you folks were in Mobile, you know that one of the opportunities I had in soccer was to bring the Golden Gate Gales from San Francisco to Mobile and put on a clinic for the youth in Mobile. And then we were doing a lot of that with the professional teams at that time, so they were coming into the community was very few, maybe one, if any, naturalized, or shall we say, U.S. players on those teams. And the rebut from the local communities were, why isn't it American? And we went into the National Soccer League and the American Soccer League, and we changed it, tried to cut it down to the number of foreign players that could, and as a result, we lost the leagues. That was one of the factors that caused the leagues to fold, because no one wanted to come and you know, we send our players to Europe so that they would develop and get them ready for come play. But that time frame of about 5 or 6 years, there was no money in the USSF in which to develop the youth programs. We've got a great leader now, Ron Cudlieri. He heads up the program now in the youth, and the youth program now moves right from the second graders. In this community, we have the Eastern Shore Soccer Association. We've got the Catholic Youth CYO over in Mobile with the YMCA and the City Recreation, and so they're strong again. But then they get up to high school level, and I can tell you now, every high school in Baldwin County is in the high school soccer league. I can tell you that there's only about 5 or 6 schools in Mobile County that are not, and they will be, both men and women divisions. So that's come a long way. I can remember being physically thrown out of one of the high schools in 1977 when I just went in to ask if he'd be willing to put a team on the field. And that gentleman and I today are the best of friends. But that was a trying moment. But this was the problems we had. Now we have it in the high school. Then they go on to college. I mean, the college scholarships available throughout this country now are just enormous. I mean, we have kids in Mobile that are going on and got scholarships to let's see, one has one up to Berry College, one has one up to, all in the local area here, we have a bunch. And I've been a little bit away, but I can tell you from previous years. In fact, I think that my son Patrick, who went on to play for Navy under Dr. Greg Myers, he played at McGill too, and it was because of the development of the league in the high school level that he was able to be recruited and on to Division I school. College now is, as you know, it was a heck of a big turnout at the national championships at Davidson last year. You couldn't get a ticket, and they just have to expand the seating capacity because we're now reaching that level. And we have indoor soccer. If you just read Cleveland Crunch beating St. Louis here recently, and that was, they thought that was going to be the answer to professional and getting the kids out of high school, college, and into indoor, but that is not working. It doesn't provide a medium for which these children can develop their skills further and the young folks further. So college-wise, we are now able to see 95, the professional league, and within a year or so, I think that would answer your question. We'll see now that we have a strong professional league in place. We'll go like most other sports. But I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't say something I firmly believe in. I believe there shouldn't be athletics in school. I really believe that school should be for reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we should have clubs in the community. And if you want to be a sports person, you go to that club and you attach yourself to that club, and you develop through that club, still maintaining the necessary education that is required by statute. But it will take away, and you still have your physical fitness programs in the schools. I really believe that. I see how it works in other countries, and I think it has a lot of merit. But that's me. Yes?
I came down here from Portland, Oregon.
Outstanding soccer community.
Yeah, I coached NAIA soccer at Lawrence College before Bernie Fagan came over. But they have FC Portland, FC Gresham, and FC Seattle, which are football clubs that are basically from youth to adult. And they have a pretty well-staffed clubs in the area. I mean, ex-professional soccer players that are coaching. And I really agree with you on the club sport concept, because the quality of the coaches. We had the Youth Sports Summit in Gulf Shores, where the NASB and Youth Sports Institute and the U.S. Sports Academy went over the basic criteria for coaching, and it's really important that coaches are developed and hopefully
Seattle Pacific. I think he's won the national title like 4 of the last 5 years.
Even in spite of Simon Fraser?
Yes, yes. But as I say, there's a lot of outstanding people in the game, and as I was, comment made to me at one of the universities here in town was, soccer people are different. Do you know that's a fact? Because we do not like to hear the word no. And as a result, we're persistent. And especially in this part of our country, and I know you're going to mention the fact that this Yankee accent that I have, I've been here 30 plus years, and it's one thing I can't get rid of, but then again, it gives me an opportunity to be persistent. Because here in the South, time is slow and gracious. It's a companion, not a master, and I'm learning to be persistent forever, but slowly. And it's a lot of things are coming in this sport, and you'll see it. It will occur, and you can count on it. I will also relate to the staff here that if you want to get into specifics of officiating, I'd be more than happy anytime, schedule permit, to come in and talk about offsides, talk about misconduct, and in that aspect. I will tell you something that's interesting on officiating. We have an ethics committee, and I'm just looking at, I got a few more minutes. We have an ethics committee and a grievance committee, and it's led by Joe Beans of a Wheaton College in Illinois. And anytime a referee does a match, college level, he has to submit a game report. It's a must. And in this area, I've instituted it, so I'm sure to get it. If the game report isn't turned in, he doesn't get his salary for that game. So we usually have no problem getting those game reports. On the game report is field conditions, fan relationships with the match. Were they rowdy? Were they pleasant? Were they nice? Coaches' ability to communicate with his team. Was he difficult to the officials? Any yellow or red card is put down, the time, the offense, and the red card is put on a separate piece of paper, and they're all forwarded to Joe. Joe has to take all these from all over the country and put them into a computer to get out the information that I relayed now. Last year we had 12,000 yellow cards in the US of A. We had 3,000 reds, which means, what do we get out of that? What does that mean? So if you take them and you break them down into the portion of the game that they occurred, you can tell what time of a match the referee really should be on his toes, when he must get into really controlling the match. And surprisingly, the last 10 minutes of the first half, or the last 12 minutes of the first half, seems to be the most difficult moments. And about the 78th minute of the match is where the player is really, in the latter case, getting a little tired, a little frustrated. The calls may not be going the way he would like them, and so forth. So if the referee sees this information and we use it at the training at the National Academy, we can show him where he has to start learning to pace himself in the first part of the match so he can run faster and be right on top of the play in that 89th minute, just as he was in the second minute. So we're teaching physical fitness and training as far as pacing yourself through the game, when to take the slow run back and the side step, and keeping things in perspective and working as a team of three. So I'd be glad to come in and discuss all these parameters with you at another time. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What's your answer to fan violence?
Fan violence?
Yes.
The referee has all kinds of but you're referring to the hooliganism in England and so forth,
Exactly.
or you're referring to the local, okay. Let's do the easy one first. Okay, here, if we have a problem with the fans, the referees go up to the local hometown coach. If this coach, the game is going to be discontinued, suspended, or terminated if you don't control the fans. It's your responsibility. And most of the time, on youth level up to the college level, that'll work. But now we get into national play. I was just at a game, Milan, Inter, and Lazio, and it was a great game for Milan. They won 4-1, but there was some frustrations, and the fans come up and they're rowdy. What are we going to do with something like this? What do you do? You know, it's the same old problem we have with crime in the United States. We know it's there. How do you deal with it? This World Cup here, the big controversy right now is requiring all media to have a background investigation check. They're not liking it. However, the Los Angeles Times just told all their reporters submit the information or don't go. And they've told them that, so they have background checks on the media, which, how are you going to do it on the fans? They're going to put metal detecting devices. There'll be no alcohol sold at game sites. I was in Genoa. I'm sorry, I was in Florence, and I was watching Costa Rica playing Scotland. And of course, they tank up outside, and the pubs are closed. Well, they were closed in Italy, within a 20, 30-mile radius of the match, and it didn't help. You get rowdy fans, and they just, you just have to get more undercover security. Hopefully, that will pinpoint the problem areas. I was down in Maracanã, the biggest stadium in the world, it seems, in Brazil, watching Fluminense play Flamengo, which is the two biggest rivalries in Rio. And I was a guest up in the press box, and of course having some brown water, and just watching. He says, I'm not getting the feel of this. There's 210,000 people right below me in the stands. That's what it holds, 200,000 people. I said, I got to feel this. So I got down behind the goal, and they were chewing on a root, which is like, you know what I'm referring to. It's just a drug, and they're just waving their banners and they're just playing. And I come to realize why in most of your South American countries you will see the pitch, the field, and you'll see a 5-foot fence. Then you'll see a 6-foot moat. Okay? Now I don't know if there's alligators in that moat, but as a referee doing one of those matches, I guarantee you I would hope sometime. But I don't have an answer. Hopefully the powers that deal in this will come up with something, but they're trying everything they know to still make it a great game.
When I was in Singapore last fall, I was at the Malaysian match, and in Singapore they had some host and coach teams, and they were quite rowdy. And after just a few minutes, the police came in and lined up in front of them right beside the stadium.
Yes, but don't forget there too, they have canings. No, but this is it. It's what is it? Machiavelli said, you rule by fear. And they know that if they lose their manners, especially in the Middle East, not the Middle East, well, Middle East too, very few. But you get into Africa, and I've played down in Ghana and down in Nigeria and so forth, great soccer skills. I mean, it's compatible to Argentina, Brazil. But again, the level of the intellect of the fans is such that it's very dangerous. And they don't have that, unless the big chieftain gets up and says, whoa, they're not going to do it. But I would say in the Near East and into Asia, we get into real good control. You wouldn't have that, well, of course, when the eventual game between North Korea and South Korea came about, there was a lot of, but it was in the streets and not in the stadium. Anything else? A real treat for me today. Look forward to seeing you at any of the local ball games. I wasn't always this heavy, but Delta has to have 1 or 2 members. I'm captain of Delta's sumo wrestling team. If I get 800 calories an hour, it keeps me in good spirits. But believe it or not, this body used to be at one time 140 pounds and run all day. So, but it can still run pretty fast after I tie my wife's shoelaces. Thanks so much.
I'd like to make a couple announcements about the next 3 convocations. Dr. Mary Como of a graduate of the Academy Department, I don't think she has a doctorate or master's degree in sport fitness. She will be here next Friday, May the 6th. On the 13th, Jack Robertson will be here. He's the men's basketball coach at Faulkner State. Last year we had the women's coach from Faulkner State here. This year we have Jack. On May the 20th, which will be the last convocation, it's scheduled for career opportunities. There'll be each of the department chairs talking about career opportunities in their disciplines. Dr. Norma Tedder will be doing a presentation on resume writing. I'll be doing a presentation on how you can set up your credential file here at the Academy, because we know a lot of you will be leaving at the end of this quarter. And then Brian Hamby will be doing a piece on clusters and how you can become a cluster coordinator or facilitator when you leave the Academy. And also looking at how you can help the Academy recruit students. Does anybody else have any announcements?
This weekend, there's a junior varsity girls soccer tournament, and it's being held at Sage, and anybody who needs hours for sports medicine, we're welcome to it. It starts at 9 o'clock on Saturday, all day, and Sunday.
Starts at 12 on Sunday.
Okay, 12 to 3 or
It's
something.
the final, semi-final.
Any other announcements? This one might be premature, but down on the calendar where you enter the academic wing, we put this up every quarter just to remind you that comprehensive exams start on the 21st and the last day of classes is on the 24th of May. Doesn't seem possible, but next week will be May already. Any other questions, comments, announcements? Okay, once again, we'd like to thank Henry for speaking today, and